If I remember right, there's a tree right at the top.
Okay.
Where they like put offerings and stuff out to whatever's in the woods. Oh wow, there's a lot more than we were here last time. There's the Othello rune.
Oh, stream catchers and beads, feathers. Let's just go a little further.
Sure.
Okay, so if anyone is here, you're welcome to come join us and sit in this circle with us.
Come on in the circle of trees.
We'd love to learn more about this land, about you and your people. If you're here with anyone, or if you're alone, we'd love to learn more about you.
Looking for some insight here on which way to go next. So with these runes, let's sneak at the energies of the woods and kind of understand the theme of what these woods in their relationship to the house.
I dropped.
What?
You dropped a rune.
I did? Ooh. Okay, so Tiwaz, the warrior rune.
Okay.
That would make sense with the native aspect.
Yep.
But let's look at it in a larger sense. So it's interesting because we've got ice, fire. These woods are contested in some type of way.
Yep.
So that there is some war that goes on around here. There's a lot of stagnation, and then there's a creativity, and then the community just kind of, let's see here, lost all fuel of joy. It seems like there was opposition because of the ice and the fire, and the community suffered because of that.
Yeah.
So two different things were coming at each other, and like the community around this area suffered.
That makes sense.
And so where are we now, though?
Yeah, that's a good past glimpse.
Mm-hmm. What are you looking for now, Woods? Woods, what would heal you? What are some energies you're looking for now? Just Ancestral Hall is that one.
Oh, maybe finally bringing back the energy of the ancestors, returning who like the woods were taken from. Maybe?
Yeah, maybe. So the old memories of here is like battlements, two contested sides that are completely opposite. You know, fire and ice coming at each other. The community overall, like, just had no joy. There was like all happiness and goodness was taken away. And the outcome is trying to search for, like you said, the ancestral hall, old ties, and stuff like that.
Remembering the ancestors, maybe honoring them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to do from our cultural standpoint.
I don't feel like we are the people to do that, but maybe we can find somebody who would.
Yeah, finally First Nation and pass this message along.
Yeah, or just find out more about what they have to say about it and learn more about the land.
We thought that using a tool like runes was a good way to see if anything in the woods or on the lands wanted to speak without trying to be invasive. It was very important to us to connect with somebody who was very familiar with the Native American history to find out more and to just make sure that there was some kind of plan in place to help those spirits. So then after the rune reading in the woods, we decided to move over to the pond to see if the pond had a different energy.
So over there, the big white house is where we're going next.
We'd love to hear your thoughts about it, or if you've seen anything there, if you know anyone that lives there.
We want to know about the whole property itself. We want to tell your story. We want to understand you and your story better too. This sigil here, we all have it on our lanterns because it's something that we work together to create a sign to represent meeting the true nature of Hinsdale. And that means everyone who's a part of it, and that includes you. We want to meet you. We want to understand you. What's up, Ash?
Do you hear a voice?
That's not a bullfrog? My ears are crap. I have to rely on you.
There's a bullfrog, but then there's like a distant voice. There could be people over there. Do you hear it, Aaron? A little bit. It's very distant. It sounds like living humans.
Okay, I can't hear anything, so
Yeah, it's very faint.
Okay.
I'm just.
If that's you, though, please come on closer.
Yeah.
If that's neighbors, please ask them to go inside.
Yeah. Please don't come closer if you're neighbors.
Please don't come closer if you're alive. So, like, what is your impression of, like, what was it and versus when we go back, what are you ready for?
It definitely feels like a reactionary creature. We're not, I mean, I know with the EVPs we got, it sounds like, you know, I'm here to eat you, basically. But it may be just a survival thing, you know, and this is all it knows, which is okay. We have creatures like that, you know, they're doing their thing. But we don't have that answer, and I'd like to get that answer.
I would just hope to be able to leave it a little better than when we find it, you know? I think that it's kind of a chaotic sort of portal right now, and if there's anything we can do to ease that, then that would be great.
The whole area is haunted, Ash. Like, that's the weirdest part. Is like, exactly, the land is full of this energy, and like the pressure vent almost is the Hinsdale House. Like, that's kind of like the closest I can get to in my mind. And so, yes, when you leave the house, there's a certain level of clarity that you're able to use your brain again, but you still don't feel safe. Anyone out across the pond? Come towards the light. Can you see me and Ash over here?
A lot of bullfrogs.
Come on over. We're safe. Very, very safe.
So, I've heard stories about a woman with red hair who either lives here or comes through often. But there was also a woman in white who may or may not be the same woman.
And they were saying that she's been more prevalent around here recently, right?
Yes. Yep, and then there was a boy who had died in an accident.
Yeah, the boy, they saw him a couple times, the dandies did, walking through the yard like he was going somewhere.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is that other neighbors around here, because back in the 70s, this was like an area where people from upstate New York would have camps. And so they'd call up the other neighbors, or vice versa. The neighbors would call them and be like, oh, there's a boy walking through our yard up towards your house. And everyone kind of just knew what that was about. So last time, didn't know about this book, but now I'm armed with knowledge. This is the journal format of Clara Miller, who at the time was known as Clara Dandy. A lot of the stuff that happened in this book 50 years ago happened to us 4 years ago.
Interesting. And very validating for both us and hopefully Clara.
I wish I was armed with that knowledge when we went there the first time. It's actually maybe more mind-blowing to me that I wasn't, because it then didn't influence my mind of what happened at the Hinsdale House. I know what happened to us, and then reading that it happened to this family 50 years ago, it gave me chills while I was reading it. One thing that's interesting too is we focused a lot of time on the pond, and there's a lot of stories revolving around the pond of a red-haired woman. She appears nearby and is focused on it and wanders away. Some of the Dandy family members even talked about watching that same woman walk across the pond.
Oh.
That's interesting because you can think of it as like a very like strange religious event, you know, from Christianity. But also, I think if I remember right, Clara talks about the fact that the pond is man-made made and was put in the year or so before they bought the house.
Oh,
so that pond that we think
interesting.
about is being there, as a water source throughout the Hinsdale time, probably got put in 1969 or 1970. So that woman might not have been walking across the water. She might have just been a residual haunt heading along on her way.
Yeah.
That's something to think about. It's like the land itself has changed,
Right. And the fact that you bring up it being like a residual haunt and the water, there's a theory out there called the stone tape theory, right? Mm-hmm. And so it talks about natural elements that essentially hold on to what happens around them. So stones, generally running water. I know the pond obviously is a standstill, but it would be interesting to see if we can kind of follow that thread along.
So just tap into the energy of the pond and any spirits around here.
Okay, so I'm gonna think about the pond and its inhabitants.
That's interesting.
Okay.
That's neat. Okay, so we learned a little bit about the woods and what it was doing. This reading almost looks like the woods and the pond don't play well together.
Oh,
So there's
fire
like
and ice.
Fire and ice, kinda. And so this challenge here is something that hasn't been fulfilled. It's on its side.
Yeah.
The reason why I think this could be connected to the woods is because there's so many runes in there to pick from. You pick Tiwa's in its current position, or this is where we are right now, and it's in Merkstav upside down. So it's like they're losing this battle, or you've lost your sword. It's the warrior not going well.
Oh, it's the warrior rune, okay.
Exactly, reversed, which the warrior rune was the focus of the woods.
Yeah.
And here it's the focus of current times.
Okay.
So the water and the warrior rune going together there. But this is Loki's rune. So it's a thorn. So with this challenge that's going on, they're learning the spirits of the pond are learning a hard lesson. Things aren't going their way right now. There's mischief. So let's have a little bit more of a conversation. So we know that there might be some strife going on if these are connected. Tell us a little bit more about your relationship between spirits here and the spirits of the woods. Rado. So there's a partnership there. There's something connected and they're traveling together.
Okay.
How so? Moving, they can't find it yet, but they're moving towards abundance. That's not available. So you guys are both trying to win something. So if there is a contest, how can we help? Can we make it so both of you reach the finish line together? Looking for the source. So yeah.
Do they want to cross over?
That the well is basically everything comes from the source, right?
Yeah.
And so if there's a Rado looking for full abundance and then the source,
Yeah.
are they fighting each other to see who can get there first?
Maybe they're keeping each other from going.
So runes are important to me because while they're not specifically evidence, they can garner a really good lead of where you can start a conversation. Like when we were in the woods, we found out that the woods were pointing us towards the pond. We listened to that, and then we got to learn a little bit more about the pond's story. A story of stagnation, being stuck there, maybe being at odds with the woods themselves and the Hinsdale House. However, now it's important for us to figure out what the common narrative among these three stories are.
How is all this connected to the house?
Let's ask it. So put these back. So now we know the woods and the pond, what the runes think about that. So woods, pond, can you tell us a little bit more? What's your relationship with the house? Is the house stopping you both from going?
Maybe.
It's like a black hole. Hagalaz is like misfortune. So with the house, stuff, I just don't know how it would tie in with the house because hail comes through and ruins the weakest crops, right? So looking at that as a misfortune, in Viking times, you think everything's wiped out. But hail's actually just, if you look at it and you change your perspective, kind of like what we want you to be here to do, you didn't lose your crops, you lost the ones that can't survive hail.
Right.
So now you can focus on the stronger ones anyway.
Okay.
How does that tie into the house though?
I don't know.
Okay.
Let's draw it.
Okay.
Can you clarify?
Yes. Bring us closer to the outdoors relationship with the house. Anti-water. So things are stuck. It's not moving. There's no thought moving. There's no creativity. Nothing's going with the flow. The flow's cut off.
Okay.
So is the house cutting the flow off to the other side?
Yeah, maybe the woods and the pond want to get to source, but the house is stagnating it.
Yeah, exactly.
The house is directly between them.
Right.
Okay.
How does the house work?
Yeah, like what is the house?
What's its function?
Yeah.
Or what do you believe its function to be?
Yeah.
Holding still. Stasis. That's Isa.
It's stagnant.
It's stagnant. It holds things.
It just holds energy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like what we were saying, like, you know.
This is exactly what you were saying earlier.
Yeah,
by the
like
campfire.
when you walk into a room and somebody has just fought there, like normally that will dissipate over, like in a normal space it would dissipate, but the house just will hold it there
holds
forever.
it. So it's like a freeze frame. So it's like if the normal flow goes on to the other side, the house is just like a well. Like it just all stays there. And how insane would that be if everything stays in the house and then you have people yelling at dinner and then hosting a party and then Christmases a year after year? If it all stays, that might be why the house is so confusing and hard to think in, because we're only used to getting like one or a couple sources of emotions at one time. But if we're getting 100 years of emotions that are stuck,
Yeah.
and like maybe that's why outside is still haunted, but you have a little bit of clarity attached to it.
Exactly. So how can we bring movement to the house?
Let's put it back in. Okay, outdoors, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah.
Bring the sword, cut the ties, battle, warrior. That's what it means, and it's upside down, which means it's a loss of that right now.
Okay.
So does that mean that we need something kinder? So cut the ties.
What should the focus of our fight be?
Yeah. Creativity. If we brought light into the house, what would that do, in your opinion? Block joy?
The house blocks joy.
Blocks
so maybe
joy.
that wouldn't work.
Right,
So what do we have to? Okay, so it's saying that approach doesn't work.
right.
So
It's just gonna eat it, maybe?
it's going
Just
to eat
like-
the joy.
So if something in the house just eats energy no matter what,
Okay.
it all stays there.
So that
Throwing more stuff into it's not gonna help.
so
It's just gonna stay joyless.
okay, so we need to cut the ties, but the ties to what?
Right.
From
Because all the last time, all those smiling faces or whatever, they felt joyless even though they were smiling.
yeah.
Like that makes sense to me. There is like just all
well,
of these.
yeah, and I let this incense that to me is such a joyful thing, and it was just totally gone.
It sucked it up.
Yeah.
That's right.
That didn't do anything.
Right.
Cut the ties. What do we cut the ties from the house to what?
The frozen room.
So
There's no warrior to cut the ties or light a torch because everything's been absorbed and there's no joy left over. It doesn't mean anything because we all come back to stasis and nothing has ever changed so far.
So even if somebody comes in and is like,
yeah,
you know,
this doesn't sound like an idea. This sounds like a historical reading.
yeah, I don't think they have an idea necessarily.
We have to get really creative.
But it's something about source, and actually tonight is the Lion's Gate, where it's like supposed to be an opening to source. It's supposed to be an opening to like the divine source.
How do we
tonight.
punch a hole?